The twin moons of Kepler, 442b, cast eerie shadows across the rocky terrain. Specialist Marcus Chun adjusted his position on the cliff face, his breathing steady and controlled. His modified Barrett M82 rifle lay beside him, its advanced scope systems powered down to avoid detection. Below him stretched the human outpost Delta 7, a critical supply depot that kept the frontier colonies alive. Marcus had been in position for 18 hours. His enhanced suit regulated his body temperature and recycled his breath, making him invisible to thermal scanners. The Galactic Federation forces thought humans were weak. They thought Earth's children would surrender when faced with superior numbers and technology. They were wrong. The first sign of trouble came through his implanted communications chip. All units, this is command. Long-range sensors detect multiple heat signatures approaching from the northwest. Estimated arrival, 2 hours. Marcus didn't respond. Radio silence was essential. He slowly activated his scope, the advanced optics coming to life with barely a whisper of power. The device could see through darkness, calculate wind speed, atmospheric pressure, and even predict bullet trajectory across the alien atmosphere. Through the scope, he began to see them. The Korthax warriors moved like shadows themselves, their insectoid forms covered in adaptive camouflage that shifted with their surroundings. Each stood 8 feet tall, with 4 arms that could wield multiple weapons simultaneously. Their compound eyes gave them nearly 360-degree vision. Behind them came the Zealothi shock troops, their crystalline bodies refracting light in strange patterns. The Federation force was massive. Marcus counted at least 300 soldiers, supported by hover tanks and aerial drones. They moved with practiced precision, clearly confident in their numerical superiority. The human outpost had maybe 50 defenders, mostly logistics personnel with basic combat training. But they had Marcus. He began his calculations. Distance, 2,847 meters. Wind speed, 18 kilometers per hour from the east. Gravity on this planet was 1.3 times Earth normal. His enhanced muscles compensated automatically, years of genetic therapy and training making the adjustments second nature. The Federation forces split into 3 groups. Classic pincer movement. They would hit the outpost from multiple angles, overwhelming the defenders before they could mount an effective response. It was a good plan. It might have worked against anyone else. Marcus identified the command structure. The Korthax leader was easy to spot, its carapace decorated with phosphorescent markings that indicated rank. 2 Zealothi lieutenants flanked it, their bodies pulsing with internal light as they communicated through bioluminescent signals. Take out the leadership, and the attack would falter. He loaded his first magazine. The bullets were custom-made, each one a masterpiece of human engineering. Depleted uranium cores wrapped in a polymer shell that would penetrate energy shields. The tips contained micro-explosives that would detonate inside the target. 1 shot, 1 kill, no matter how tough the alien physiology. The Federation forces reached their staging positions. In 30 minutes, they would launch their attack under cover of darkness. The human defenders were starting to panic, their communications chatter increasing as they realized the size of the force approaching. "Hold your positions," came the calm voice of Captain Sarah Mitchell. "Remember your training. We've faced worse odds before." Marcus smiled slightly. Mitchell was a veteran of the Titan campaign, where 100 humans had held off 1,000 Draxian berserkers for 3 days. She knew how to inspire her troops. But even she didn't know about Marcus. His mission was classified at the highest levels. He was a ghost, one of humanity's secret weapons. Genetically enhanced, cybernetically augmented, trained from childhood to be the perfect killer. There were only 100 ghosts in existence, scattered across the galaxy, wherever human interests needed protection. They operated alone, invisible, deadly. The Korthax commander raised one of its 4 arms, preparing to signal the attack. Marcus centered his crosshairs on the joint where its head met its thorax. The alien's natural armor was thickest on the skull, but the neck was vulnerable. He began to squeeze the trigger, his heartbeat slowing to almost nothing. Then, something unexpected happened. One of the Zealoty lieutenants suddenly turned, its crystalline head rotating toward Marcus's position. The aliens had brought a psychic scanner, one of their rare telepaths who could detect conscious thought. It was sensing something, a presence where there should be none. Marcus had seconds before his position was compromised. He adjusted his aim, targeting the psychic first. But that would alert the commander, ruining his chance for a decapitation strike. He had to make a choice. The ghost made his decision. He would have to take them all. His finger moved with mechanical precision. The rifle barely whispered as the first bullet left the barrel, traveling at 3 times the speed of sound through the alien atmosphere. The suppressor and the distance meant the Federation forces wouldn't hear the shot for almost 3 seconds. The Zealoty psychic's head exploded in a shower of crystal fragments. Before the body hit the ground, Marcus was already adjusting, finding his next target. The second bullet caught the Corthax commander in the neck joint, the micro-explosive detonating inside and separating its head from its body. Chaos erupted in the Federation ranks. The third bullet found the other Zealoty lieutenant. 3 shots, 3 kills, 2.7 seconds elapsed. The aliens scrambled for cover, their perfect formation dissolving into confusion. They couldn't identify where the shots were coming from, the sound arriving from multiple directions as it echoed off the canyon walls. Marcus kept firing. Each shot was perfect, finding gaps in armor, exploiting weaknesses in alien physiology the humans had cataloged through countless battles. A Corthax warrior raising a plasma rifle, dead. A Zealoty engineer setting up a shield generator, dead. A drone operator trying to launch reconnaissance units, dead. 10 shots, 10 kills. The Federation forces were in full panic now. They returned fire wildly, plasma bolts and kinetic rounds lighting up the night as they shot at shadows. Some tried to retreat, only to find their escape routes turned into killing fields. The hover tanks activated their shields and began scanning with every sensor they had. Marcus smiled coldly. Human engineers had studied captured Federation technology for years. He loaded a special magazine, the bullets designed specifically for hardened targets. The first tank's shield flickered and died as the EMP bullet overloaded its generators. The second bullet found the power core, turning the vehicle into a 30-ton bomb. The explosion lit up the night, revealing dozens of Federation soldiers caught in the open. Marcus worked methodically. Priority targets first, officers, heavy weapons specialists, communication personnel. Then, the regular troops, starting with those closest to the outpost. His rifle was an extension of his will, each shot guided by enhanced reflexes and predictive targeting software. The Federation forces tried to adapt. They formed defensive circles, overlapping shields creating barriers against the sniper fire. But Marcus had anticipated this. He shifted his position slightly, found new angles, exploited tiny gaps in their coverage. 20 minutes into the engagement, the Federation attack was in ruins. Bodies littered the approach routes to the outpost. The survivors huddled behind whatever cover they could find, afraid to move, afraid to stay still. Their morale was shattered, their command structure eliminated. Then the humans counterattacked. Captain Mitchell had been waiting for this moment. The outpost's gates opened, and 50 defenders poured out, their weapons blazing. They weren't numerous, but they were motivated. The Federation forces, already demoralized and confused, broke completely. Marcus continued to fire, picking off aliens who tried to flee or regroup. His ammunition count was getting low, but it didn't matter. The battle was effectively over. What had started as a certain Federation victory had turned into a complete rout. As the last alien survivors fled into the darkness, Captain Mitchell's voice came over the command channel. "I don't know who you are, Guardian Angel, but drinks are on me when this war is over." Marcus didn't respond. He was already packing up his equipment, preparing to disappear into the night. By dawn, there would be no trace of his presence except for the Federation bodies and the whispered stories among the human defenders. The ghost moved through the shadows, his job complete. Somewhere across the galaxy, another human outpost was under threat. Another impossible odd to overcome. Another chance to remind the Galactic Federation why humans, despite their small numbers and limited territory, were the most dangerous species in the known universe. The twin moons continued their eternal dance across the sky, bearing silent witness to the night when one human sniper stopped an army cold. In the morning, Federation Command would analyze the battle, trying to understand how their perfect attack had failed so catastrophically. They would never find the answer, because the answer was something they couldn't comprehend: the human will to survive, refined and focused into a single individual with the skills to change the course of a battle. Marcus Chun disappeared into the wasteland, already receiving his next mission parameters. The war was far from over, but tonight, humanity had sent a clear message. They would not go quietly into the night. 3 weeks after the failed night assault on Delta 7, the Galactic Federation War Council convened an emergency session aboard the Dreadnought Supremacy. The massive vessel orbited a dying star, its council chambers filled with representatives from dozen species that comprised the Federation's military leadership. Admiral Krextor of the Korthax fleet stood at the center, his 4 arms gesturing at holographic displays showing the battlefield analysis. 300 of our finest warriors, stopped by 50 humans. The tactical data makes no sense. The Zealothi representative, Ambassador Silvar, pulsed with agitation. The trajectories indicate a single shooter. 1 human. It's impossible. Yet the evidence is undeniable, growled General Thakmore of the Draxian contingent. Every kill shot came from the same grid coordinates. Perfect accuracy at ranges exceeding 3,000 meters. In darkness, through atmospheric interference, the council erupted in heated debate. Some claimed the humans had developed new weapons technology. Others suspected an entire sniper team working in perfect coordination. None wanted to accept the truth that a single human had dismantled their attack. Meanwhile, 8 systems away, Marcus Chun sat in a dingy bar on the mining colony of New Pittsburgh. The establishment catered to freight runners and mercenaries, the kind of place where nobody asked questions. He nursed a synthetic whiskey, listening to conversations around him. "Did you hear about Delta 7? A grizzle miner was saying. Federation threw everything at them. Got their asses handed to them by the garrison." "Garrison my ass," his companion replied. "My cousin work supply runs out there. Says the defenders were ready to evacuate when the feds just started dropping. Like someone was picking them off from orbit." Marcus allowed himself a slight smile. The legend was already growing, taking on a life of its own. Good. Let the Federation troops spread fear among themselves. Psychological warfare was just as important as bullets. His implant chimed softly. New orders. Marcus finished his drink and left credits on the bar. Time to move. The target was Epsilon Station, a Federation intelligence hub disguised as a trade waypoint. Human resistance cells had been trying to crack it for months without success. The station's defenses were formidable. Energy shields, automated weapons, and a garrison of elite Vorthan commandos. Marcus traveled under false identity, just another freelance technician heading to the outer systems for work. His weapons and equipment were scattered across multiple cargo containers, each piece individually harmless but deadly when assembled. The journey took 5 days through hyperspace, giving him time to study the station schematics and plan his approach. Epsilon Station hung in space like a metallic spider, its docking arms reaching out in all directions. Marcus docked at the civilian terminal, going through security with practiced ease. His false credentials held up perfectly. The Federation relied too heavily on their technology, never considering that humans might have learned to subvert it. He rented a small maintenance pod, the kind used for external repairs. Over the next 2 days, he played the role of a contract worker, fixing minor systems and learning the station's rhythms. All the while, his enhanced senses cataloged guard rotations, identified security vulnerabilities, mapped ventilation systems. The intelligence hub was located in the station's core, protected by multiple security layers. A frontal assault was impossible. But Marcus wasn't planning a frontal assault. On the third night, he made his move. The maintenance pod drifted away from the station, seemingly on autopilot after its operator failed to return from a bar. Security barely noticed. Such incidents were common on frontier stations. Marcus wasn't in the bar. He was floating in space, his ghost suit's stealth systems active. The vacuum didn't bother him. His enhanced physiology could survive for hours without air, and the suit provided everything else he needed. He approached the station from an angle that avoided all sensor sweeps. The Vorthans were efficient, but they followed patterns. Patterns could be exploited. Marcus reached the outer hull and activated his magnetic boots, beginning the long crawl toward his objective. The Federation had made one critical error. They assumed any attack would come from inside the station or from a military vessel. They never considered a single human might approach from the void itself. Marcus found what he was looking for, a waste exhaust port, too small for most species, but perfect for a human. He cut through the external grating with a plasma cutter, the work taking precious minutes. Every second in space increased the chance of detection. Inside the pipe, he moved quickly. The station's internal sensors couldn't penetrate the shielding around waste systems, another oversight born of arrogance. The Federation never imagined someone would willingly crawl through their sewage to reach a target. He emerged in a maintenance area, quickly neutralizing two Vorthan technicians before they could raise an alarm. The Vorthans were tough, silicon-based life forms with redundant organs. But Marcus knew exactly where to strike. Years of study had taught humanity every alien weakness. Moving through service corridors, he avoided main passages where his presence would trigger alerts. His implants interfaced with the station systems, creating false sensor readings that showed empty corridors where he passed. The intelligence hub's outer defenses were impressive. Energy barriers that would vaporize unauthorized personnel. Automated turrets with reaction times measured in microseconds. Guards in powered armor that could withstand heavy weapons fire. Marcus assembled his rifle in a storage room 50 meters from the hub entrance. He loaded specialized ammunition, barrier piercers, shield disruptors, and his personal favorite, the chaos rounds that would overload electronic systems. He didn't plan to fight his way in. That would be suicide, even for a ghost. Instead, he would create an opportunity. The station's shift change happened at 0400 hours, standard Federation time. For exactly 3 minutes, the guard rotation would create a blind spot as personnel exchanged positions. Marcus had observed this during his reconnaissance. The Vorthans were disciplined, but discipline created predictability. At 0358, he was in position. Through a ventilation grate, he could see the hub entrance. 6 guards in powered armor. 2 automated turrets. 1 energy barrier checkpoint. Behind them, the blast doors that protected the Federation's secrets. 0400 arrived. The guards began their rotation. Marcus fired. The first chaos round hit the left turret, sending electronic havoc through its systems. The turret began firing randomly, targeting everything and nothing. The guards scrambled for cover as their own defenses turned against them. The second shot took out the barrier generator. The energy field flickered and died. Alarms began wailing, but it was too late. Marcus was already moving, his rifle singing death through the chaos. The guards in powered armor were tough targets, but the chaos had disrupted their suit systems. Targeting computers failed. Strength enhancers malfunctioned. Marcus picked them off with precise shots to joints and weak points, each bullet finding its mark despite the confusion. In 30 seconds, the entrance was clear. But Marcus knew he had minimal time. The entire station would be mobilizing. He sprinted through the defunct barrier, reaching the blast doors as emergency protocols began sealing the facility. He slapped a breaching charge against the door. Human explosives, crude, but effective. The blast shook the entire section, tearing through the reinforced metal like paper. Marcus dove through the gap, rolling to his feet inside the intelligence hub. The room beyond was filled with data cores and communication equipment. Vorthan intelligence officers scrambled for weapons, but Marcus was faster. His rifle spoke 6 times. 6 bodies hit the floor. He moved to the main console, his implants interfacing with the alien systems. Terabytes of data flowed through his consciousness: troop movements, supply routes, strategic plans. Everything the human resistance needed to fight back effectively. But there's something else. Something that made Marcus pause. The Federation was planning something called Operation Extinction. Complete orbital bombardment of Earth. They were tired of fighting humans across the galaxy. They wanted to cut off the problem at its source. The timeline showed 2 weeks. 2 weeks before humanity's birth world burned. Marcus copied everything to his implant storage, then began setting demolition charges. The intelligence hub couldn't be allowed to coordinate the attack. He had 4 minutes before Federation reinforcements arrived in force. 3 minutes later, he was back in the maintenance tunnels. Behind him, explosions chain-reacted through the hub, destroying centuries of accumulated intelligence data. The station shuddered as critical systems failed. Marcus reached his entry point as Vorthan commandos flooded the maintenance areas. They were shooting at shadows, their disciplined search patterns disrupted by the chaos. He sealed his suit and entered the waste pipe, crawling back towards space. He emerged in a vacuum as fighter craft swarmed around the station. Inside, the Vorthans were still searching for an enemy they assumed must be hiding somewhere aboard. They never looked outside. The maintenance pod was where he'd left it, drifting innocently among debris from the station's damaged sections. Marcus reached it after 10 minutes of careful maneuvering, every moment expecting to be spotted. But the Federation forces were focused inward, convinced the threat was still aboard the station. Marcus powered up the pod and began moving away, just another piece of equipment floating through space. 6 hours later, he docked at an automated refueling depot. From there, he transmitted the stolen data to human command through encrypted channels. Operation Extinction was now known. Humanity could prepare. But Marcus wasn't done. The Federation had shown their hand, revealed their desperation. They were afraid. Afraid enough to attempt genocide. He composed a message, routing it through dozens of relay points until it would appear to originate from within Federation space itself. You tried to attack us in the night. One human stopped you. You planned to burn our world. We're coming for you instead. The ghost, the message propagated through Federation military channels, impossible to stop or trace. Within hours, every soldier in their vast armada would know. They were being hunted. Marcus plotted a course for the Kepler system. The Federation fleet staging for Operation Extinction was gathering there. One man against an armada seemed like impossible odds. But then again, they'd thought the same thing at Delta 7. The Kepler system blazed with the light of 1,000 warships. The Federation's extinction fleet had gathered in all its terrible glory. Dreadnoughts the size of cities, carriers bristling with fighter craft, and bombardment platforms capable of cracking continents. Admiral Krextor stood on the bridge of the flagship Inevitable Victory, his compound eyes surveying the assembled might. Earth burns in 72 hours, he announced to his staff. Nothing can stop us now. Not their fleets, not their colonies, and certainly not their ghost stories. His words were meant to inspire confidence, but the bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. The ghost message had spread through the ranks like wildfire. Every soldier knew about Delta 7. Every intelligence officer had heard about Epsilon Station. One human, moving unseen, striking from nowhere. In the void between stars, Marcus Chun drifted in a stolen stealth courier. The ship was zealothy design, its crystalline hull bending light around itself. He'd acquired it from a Federation patrol that had suffered an unfortunate accident involving explosive decompression. The tactical situation was stark. Even a ghost couldn't destroy 1,000 ships. But Marcus didn't need to destroy them all. He just needed to prevent them from reaching Earth. His implants processed the stolen intelligence data, identifying critical weaknesses in the fleet structure. The Federation's greatest strength was also their weakness, the coordination required to move such a massive force. Disrupting that coordination would create chaos. The linchpin was the strategic command vessel harmony of thought. It contained the quantum communicators that linked the entire fleet, allowing instantaneous coordination across light years. Without it, The 1,000 ships would become 1,000 individual units, unable to execute complex maneuvers. But the Harmony was protected at the fleet's heart, surrounded by layers of escorts and defensive screens. A direct approach was suicide. Marcus smiled. He wasn't planning a direct approach. The human resistance had provided him with something special, a captured Vorthan admiral's command codes, taken during a raid 6 months ago. The Federation had changed their primary encryption, but bureaucracy moved slowly. Secondary systems still recognized the old codes. He began his approach, the stealth couriers sliding between patrol routes. The Federation fleet was massive, but space was bigger. There were always gaps, always shadows to hide in. His first target wasn't the Harmony. It was a supply tender on the fleet's periphery, Fat Bounty. The vessel carried antimatter fuel for the smaller ships. Marcus docked with it during a shift change, his forged credentials identifying him as a Vorthan inspector. Nobody question à surprise inspection. The Federation military was built on rigid hierarchy and sudden accountability. Marcus moved through the ship with authority, his disguise perfect down to the synthetic skin that mimicked Vorthan physiology. In the antimatter storage bay, he placed his first surprise. Not an explosive that would have been detected immediately. Instead, a simple computer virus, dormant until activated. He left similar gifts throughout the ship's systems. Over the next 40 hours, Marcus repeated this process across dozens of vessels. Supply ships, communication relays, fighter carriers. Always peripheral targets, never important enough to warrant tight security. The Ghost moved like smoke through the fleet, leaving invisible destruction in his wake. The Admiralty knew something was wrong. Ships reported minor malfunctions, easily fixed but strangely persistent. Security sweeps found nothing. Paranoia began to spread. Was the Ghost among them? How many humans had infiltrated their ranks? Krextor tried to maintain order, but doubt was poisonous. When a Draxian Marine claimed to have seen a human in the corridors, panic nearly erupted before it was proven false. When a Zealothi navigator reported suspicious readings, entire battle groups went to alert status. Marcus watched from his concealed position, satisfaction growing. The fleet's coordination was already beginning to fracture. But it wasn't enough. They would still reach Earth unless he played his final card. 50 hours before the scheduled bombardment, he made his move. The courier approached the Harmony of Thought openly, broadcasting Admiral Vorsk's old command codes. The automated systems accepted them, granting priority approach clearance. Alarms screamed across the fleet. An unauthorized vessel was approaching their command ship. Fighters scrambled, weapons powered up, but the Harmony's own systems insisted the approach was legitimate. In the confusion, nobody noticed the supply tender Fat Bounty beginning to drift off course, or the communication relay Crystal Voice developing power fluctuations, or a dozen other ships experiencing similar minor issues. Marcus pushed the courier's engines to maximum, racing toward the Harmony. Fighter craft closed in, weapons locked. In seconds, they would open fire. He transmitted a single code phrase, "Night has fallen." Across the fleet, his viruses activated simultaneously. The Fat Bounty's antimatter containment failed catastrophically, the explosion consuming 3 nearby destroyers. Crystal Voice's communication systems went haywire, broadcasting gibberish across every frequency. Navigation computers reset. Weapon systems locked up. Chaos erupted throughout the fleet. The fighters closing on Marcus suddenly had bigger problems. Their carriers were reporting emergencies. Their communication links were flooded with contradictory orders. Some broke off, racing back to their ships. Others continued pursuit, but their coordination was gone. Marcus abandoned the courier, ejecting in an emergency pod as plasma, fire, turned the vessel into expanding gas. The pod tumbled through space, another piece of debris among thousands as ships collided and systems failed across the fleet. He activated his suit's thrusters, making for the Harmony. The massive command ship's defenses were in disarray, its escort vessels dealing with their own emergencies. A gap had opened in their protective screen. Landing on the hull, Marcus found an airlock. His plasma cutter made short work of the outer door. Inside, Korthak's Marines scrambled to respond, but they were expecting a boarding party, not a single human. Marcus moved through the ship like death itself. His rifle spoke in controlled bursts, each shot precisely placed. The Korthaks were excellent warriors, but they were trained for battlefield combat, not the intimate violence of ship corridors. He reached the command deck as Admiral Krextor was screaming orders, trying to restore order to the chaos. The bridge crew saw him enter and froze. The ghost, the nightmare made real. "Admiral," Marcus said calmly, his rifle centered on the Korthak's commander. "Order the fleet to stand down." "Never," Krextor snarled, his four hands moving toward weapons. Marcus shot him in 3 of his 4 shoulders, the bullets carefully placed to disable, not kill. The Admiral collapsed, green blood pooling on the deck. "Order the fleet to stand down," Marcus repeated, his voice never changing inflection. "Or I start shooting bridge crew. You have 5 seconds." The remaining officers looked at their wounded commander, then at the human who had somehow reached the heart of their impregnable fleet. They'd seen what one ghost could do. They believed him. All ships, the communication officer transmitted, her voice shaking. "Stand down immediately. Cease all operations. This is a priority command override." The chaos across the fleet began to subside, replaced by confusion. Ships that had been fighting fires and system failures now wondered why they were being ordered to halt. Some commanders demanded confirmation. Others, relieved to have clear direction, immediately complied. Marcus kept his rifle trained on the bridge crew while accessing the Harmony systems. The quantum communicators were sophisticated, but human hackers had been studying capture examples for years. He began uploading new programming, his implants interfacing directly with the alien technology. "What are you doing?" One of the Zealothi officers pulsed nervously. "Sending a message," Marcus replied. Across the fleet, every screen, every display, every communication system suddenly showed the same image, Earth blue and beautiful hanging in space. Then the image changed, showing human children playing, families gathering, cities building toward the sky. Marcus's voice echoed through 1,000 ships. "This is what you came to destroy. Not military targets, not strategic resources. A world of families, of children, of beings who simply want to live in peace." The images continued. Humans and aliens working together in the colonies, mixed species crews on merchant vessels, diplomatic ceremonies where former enemies shook hands in friendship. "We didn't start this war," the message continued, "but we won't let you finish it. One human stopped your night attack. One human reached your command ship. Imagine what all of us could do if you force us to fight for our survival." The transmission ended with a simple statement. "The fleet will withdraw to Federation space immediately. Any ship approaching Earth will be considered hostile and destroyed. You have 1 hour to begin withdrawal." On the bridge of the Harmony, Marcus lowered his rifle. The fight had gone out of the bridge crew. They'd seen their invincible fleet reduced to chaos by one man. The threat wasn't empty. If one human could do this, what could their entire species accomplish when truly threatened? Admiral Krextor, still bleeding on the deck, raised one shaking arm. "Give the order," he whispered. "All ships withdraw." The Federation extinction fleet began its long retreat, leaving behind destroyed vessels and shattered pride. The mighty armada that had come to burn a world was limping home, defeated not by another fleet, but by the actions of a single determined human. Marcus stayed on the Harmony's bridge until the withdrawal was well underway. Then he moved to the escape pods, selecting one with extended life support. As he prepared to launch, the communication officer found her courage. "Who are you?" she asked. Marcus paused at the pod's entrance. "I'm nobody. A ghost. A reminder that humans will always find a way to survive. Tell your leaders that. Tell them we don't want war, but we won't accept extinction. And if they come for Earth again..." He didn't finish the threat. He didn't need to. The pod launched into space, quickly lost among the debris and confusion of the retreating fleet. Federation search parties would look for him, but ghosts knew how to disappear. Within days, he would be back in human space, ready for the next mission. The war wasn't over. It might continue for years, but Operation Extinction had failed, and, with it, the Federation's belief in their own invincibility. They would think twice before threatening humanity again. In the depths of space, Marcus Chun allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. One shot at a time, one mission at a time, humanity would survive. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. Never attack humans in the night. You never knew when a ghost might be watching. The stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the affairs of the species below. But on a small blue world in an unremarkable system, children continued to play, families continued to gather, and life continued. Because one human had stopped them cold.